break. We will be hearing now, as I did mention, from our bronze sponsor, Clockworx Solutions. We will be hearing from Chirstopher Caruk. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, that'll do. And he is the CEO and co-founder there at Clockworx. He brings over 30 years of executive management in startups, established business and consultancy organizations. He's held several executive leadership positions for mid-market and startup businesses as CEO, CTO, and COO. Having cemented his technical vision in a history of leadership roles, Chirstopher focuses on software and systems management and design development. His primary focus is now on building highly scalable technology businesses and socially responsible technical ventures. So it's with great pride and great appreciation that you've joined us today, Chris. And for now, I'll hold over the mic to you, and please do take it away.
Great. Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello, everybody. As we mentioned, my name is Chirstopher Caruk. I think of myself primarily as an engineer, although I've been doing a lot of executive management work. I've been building systems for the better part of 40 years. I've developed everything from systems that are very small. In fact, some of the software that I've developed is probably running in the smart cards that you're carrying in your wallet. Together with software in the large, I've built very large scalable systems that service hundreds of thousands of people. So today I'm going to talk about how I've seen companies grow. Now, a lot of this will be quite familiar to you, as I'm sure a lot of you have been doing this for a little while and have worked through organizations yourself. I found that many organizations start very much with a good idea and a small group of people who work together quite closely to make that idea happen. You have within that group the ability to communicate, everybody's connected to everyone else, everybody is talking to everyone else. It's very, very easy for them to do their thing. But as the organization grows, things start to happen. As the business grows, things start to happen. Each team grows, they build around them teams of like-minded people. So the guy who's dealing with invoicing and accounting brings together additional accountants. The guy who's dealing with operations brings together an operational team. Development brings together a development team. And this development leads to a kind of specialization within these silos. Within each silo, people bring in specialized tools. That's right. Okay. People bring in specialized tools. Those tools are highly focused on the job that they need to do, and they should be. The tools that they use will accelerate the work that they're doing, will make the work that they're doing much, much easier. Generally, some general purpose applications used, applications like Excel, Word, Outlook, and such will be brought into the organization, sometimes a chat application. But even there's often a specialization within the group themselves. We find that on average, companies have no fewer than 123 different applications that they're using. So because of this, team comms become quite fragmented. Critical information becomes siloed, not available through the entire organization. The organization itself becomes disconnected. Common information isn't updated from place to place. Excel is often used to try to consolidate this and put it together, but Excel has its limitations. So perhaps there's some pain points that you guys recognize. Oops. Transcription errors, right? Because information is manually moved from application to application. People make mistakes. There's an overuse of spreadsheets, as I say. Excel is used everywhere. It's the go-to tool to kind of pile things in. And of course, Excel is a problem in that there are very few experts in it. A lot of people who know a little bit about it. Often people try to extend it to make it easier, but then ultimately makes it difficult to maintain and keep up to date. There are loads of processes. Each department has its own way of doing things and develops its own processes and procedures, and usually none of them are compatible, none of them are optimized, and none of them are geared toward cooperation with other departments. fragmented communication. People start to find it difficult to communicate with each other, to effectively collect information from other teams as they're collectively trying to deliver products. There's process duplication, of course. The processes are replicated from department to department. And all of this results in a massive waste of time and effort. Likewise, a lack of visibility. People just aren't aware of what's going on through the process and what other teams are doing. And also at the front end of the process, where things are often not regulated or managed particularly carefully, there's very often an overspend. We find some of our projects, it takes so long to sell and to communicate with customers that at the end of that process, there isn't a lot of profit left for actually developing the solution. Companies are often unaware of the time that goes in before the actual delivery process. So as a result, email systems become overloaded. People start sending specifications all over the place. You have multiple versions of multiple specifications that exist in the email system. Chat becomes a tangled mess. I don't know about you guys, but until quite recently, I would spend hours searching back through old chat message threads to find out why a decision was made or why we decided to do a particular thing, if I could find that information itself. There are, of course, unforeseeable delays due to this communications. You can never plan around these kinds of delays in projects. There are fewer opportunities to innovate on new products because people are spending an awful lot of their time simply trying to relearn things that they should know. Process versions are out of date. Even if you change things, like Joseph and Samuel were saying a moment ago, you have to optimize those processes, but you have to also make sure that people are following the process. So you've got to be able to collect information from what's going on within the organization to make sure you're flowing correctly. There's a lack of metrics. Metrics are normally deployed at the top level of an organization, but be incredibly useful if individuals had a set of metrics to know that they were following the processes set about for them. It's, of course, difficult to find new opportunities to engage with existing customers because everybody's simply fighting fires, trying to keep on top of the projects that are on the go. So as a result, massive amounts of time is wasted. So what's all this costing? Well, Ernst & Young, in a UK research study, said that no fewer than 166 hours a year are wasted. Now, a company with 1,000 employees, at an average of $33K per employee, that's a $2.6 million problem, pound problem, excuse me. McKinsey said knowledge workers and managers lose 19% of their time searching for information, gathering information that they need. Now, at 60K per manager, that's 12K wasted, 250 managers, that's a £3 million problem. The IDC in the US says knowledge workers lose 3.5 hours every week to addressing these same kinds of problems. Now, at 40 to 50K per worker in the United States, a company with 1,000 employees, that's a $6.6 million problem. This wastage of time is a massive, massive problem. So where does that take us? We start with Excel. If we want to do maybe build something ourselves, then extend Excel, and finally build an application, layer on analytics, and then ultimately, it's the first time I've timed that right, actually. So does this kind of sound like problems you have? Or are you thinking that I don't have any of these problems? We like what we have, it's all working for us, so why do we need to change? Well, if that's what you're thinking, we admire your courage. We say it's time to rethink. Oops, let me get these in sync now again. Okay. I lost a little bit of synchronization between, I guess that's my slide say it didn't say it. Some solutions organizations normally employ to solve these, of course, is to make better use of Excel or more use of Excel because it's on hand. But of course, the problems with Excel, as I noted, are that it's very, very difficult to keep Excel up to date. It's often extended by people who know very little about Excel. Of course, there's also the security problems. Excel spreadsheets are kept on USB drives that are distributed widely and very often lost. Many of the data breaches we've had in the last number of years have been because Excel spreadsheets have been stored on USB keys that have been lost. We can hire more people. We hire more project managers and more general managers to make sure that the flows are right and that information is being distributed. But as we all know, that can be incredibly costly. We could try to build something ourselves. Very often companies resort to hiring somebody's nephew or brother-in-law to come in and build something quick for us that kind of binds things together. But of course, the problem with that is that these applications are very, very difficult to maintain over time. That person leaves the company or goes on to bigger and better things, and that knowledge is lost. So we think that it's time for business orchestration. Now, orchestration is a term that's brought over from the DevOps world. Many of you guys that work with technical companies will be familiar with the term orchestration. It basically means bringing together a number of data center applications so that they can be used as one cohesive whole. Now, we think it's time for business orchestration. We think it's time to bind together the different applications you already have into one cohesive whole. And some quick wins of doing that are it allows you to, get myself in sync here again. It allows you to bind together those frequently used applications. It allows you to create high-level workflows that guide people through what they need to do and when they need to do it, showing them just the information that they need to see when it comes time to make a decision. Very often, a mistake with traditional applications is they present people with all of the information available. But too much information is as difficult to deal with as not enough information. We think that orchestration will help people retain knowledge, discover the root cause of things. As you're watching things happen within the different applications, you can collect information about what's going on. Again, as we heard in the previous presentation, unless you've got that feedback loop and you know what's going on, you can't really understand how successful your transitional efforts have been. We think that analytics should be everywhere, at least orchestration gives you the ability to place analytics everywhere, to give everybody access to simple graphical representations of what's going on. It also gives you the ability to, I'm not keeping track, it also gives you the ability to react to delays immediately. You use those escalation chains when things aren't happening when they should happen to escalate through the organization. To protect and extend, to not have to throw away all that you have invested in time and effort in the existing software. Really, the software that you've chosen and are using was chosen and is being used for good reasons. Being used because they're the best tools for doing what you need to do. Very often companies, as they grow, they become a certain size and they resort to ripping out everything that they've built and they've put together and implementing large scale tools like SAP, for example. But the problem with large scale tools is they tend to be jacks of all trades that masters of none. The applications that you're using, again, were used or at least chosen because they are the best at what they do. It allows you to streamline your workflows. Again, as we heard before, you really need optimized workflows to help you achieve what you need to achieve. And you need to be able to adapt those workflows quite quickly to changes within the business. You need to be able to create agile processes. You can work with it. Those processes need to be dedicated to each department in each area based on their learning. You need to automate where possible. Those simple, mundane tasks that everybody is wasting so much time doing, they need to be automated. And they can be automated. So you have auditing, robust auditing, where people are able to look back where there have been problems and discover the source of those problems. So you can correct those issues. You need to create a unified data hub. Now, this is really important and something that we're all going to need in the future. We all know that AI is coming. But AI requires a centralized source of information that you can feed through to the learning models to allow it to help you. Now, unless you're starting now and unifying this information, you're simply not going to be ready. So orchestration also helps you provide a single source of truth. That replication that occurs through the organization, you can eliminate that so that everybody has access to the same information at the same time. So orchestration provides a way to protect and extend, to create clear and concise directives, and have highly focused staff, to provide a system that's agile and adaptive and changes to the business as the business changes, to provide you a way to have generalized notifications and escalations through either a project chain or a hierarchy, project hierarchy, or an organizational hierarchy, to have full auditing, where you can keep track of what decisions were made and when, have access to that information. I mentioned chat before. If chat as one of your applications is actually integrated with the processes, then you can hold conversations that's related to the process. That chat can form a part of the audit chain for that application or that problem you're solving, that task. You can always refer back to those decisions and get to them immediately. An orchestration system can provide you with simple, easy to deal with KPIs for everyone, whether they're individuals, departments, or the top table. They can bring knowledge to the people. As a bit of a data hippie, I suppose, myself, I've always been about bringing knowledge to the people. Technology isn't a be-all and end-all. It's a pencil, and it's the kind of pencil that should allow us to express our ideas and make better decisions, rather than being something that will simply become a cog to, or at least our information into. So really, that's what we're all about at Clockworx. That's what Clockworx does. We have a platform that allows you to integrate to all of those applications that you have, to collect and consolidate information across all of them, to orchestrate the flows that you have, and ensure that things are happening the way you want them to happen. We hope to turn this into this. I think I've probably spoken my 22 minutes to this point. I'd like to ask if there are any questions.
Yes, if there is any questions for Chirstopher, please do put your hands up.
No questions.
I can see some faces that want to put their hands up, but we're not doing it. Thank you. Thank you, Renita.
Thank you. It was a really good presentation. And I guess it's really timely for us at King's College, Phoenix Fernando. And we just have a clear system and know we're starting to work on it in terms of governance around the systems, because we have a lot of academics who want to go on X system to do X research, but then needs to interface with kind of our larger architecture. And I guess we're working on looking at rationalizing that. So what do you feel about limiting user access and delegation, and how we see people go about that? Because the biggest challenge we have on data quality is the fact that everyone can access and do what they like in the system. So in terms of master data management, it's become a major problem for us as an organization. So any thoughts would be wonderful.
Well, I think it's pretty important to limit access to the various applications and limit access to a system that provides access to information. I mean, ideally, you want people to be able to follow common processes, but you only want to expose them to information that they're actually allowed and qualified to see. But in addition to allowed and qualified, within any process, as you go from step to step, you don't need to see everything. Just kind of need to see the bits that you need to see to do the job that you need to do. So I think it's enormously important to have different kind of access. One of the problems we find in organizations is that to provide that kind of access, it means lots and lots of licenses to those core applications, which again can be incredibly expensive. Right? Much better to draw the information out of the key applications and then present them in a more economical way. right, to generalize people, and then to do that in a secure way.
Thank you very much for the question. Is there any other questions? Please do raise your arm.
One question people quite frequently ask is, how do you accomplish that? Now, it can be actually quite a challenge to bring together all of this information. If you're using modern applications that have been released for the last 5 or so years, there's generally really good APIs that come with it that can be interacted with. That can pull information out and then push information forward. But in older applications, that starts to become a challenge. Of course, there's no API. And so in cases like that, we need to interact with the databases that those products use to draw information out and then make it part of this centralized archive of information. Sometimes even we need to pretend to be a user within the application itself, to drive the application through whatever processes it has to, again, draw that information out. When using the APIs, we're very often able to send information back into the application to automate fully that process. When using the database, it's very dangerous to actually deal with the database directly and feed information back in. But when pretending to be a user and driving an application from a virtual perspective, again, it's very easy to feed information back into that system. So depending on the type of application and the way people interact with it, we've developed a number of approaches for automating all of this.
Great, thank you. And yes, we do have a question from Alexandra. So thank you very much for the presentation. I want to share one of my feelings, and I don't know if from your experience you encountered those. So for me, it's amazing. No? We go from chaos to planning, like you show in your last slide. But by doing this, if I have, for example, president, vice president, CEO, that means that I give a lot of power to the data scientists, let's call them, the way that they work with the database and all of that stuff. Did you ever encounter some resistance or anxiety from, these leaders that they need to give the power to the data scientists?
I think we find that most of the reluctance is at the lower levels. I think it's very, very easy these days to hide inadequacies in the chaos that exists within organizations. And people are afraid to do things that will allow them to be watched, but really watching isn't the intention. The intention is genuinely to find out where the problems are, where things aren't happening the way they want them to happen. So, of course, there are always challenges in selling, and we normally sell to the top table. And many executives think they have a handle on what's going on. And I think that's mostly due to the phenomenon that executives are often told that what they're doing is great and all the decisions are wonderful, and how could we ever want a better leader within the organization? And so they have an abstract view of what's going on. And I think that clouds their judgment to some extent. I think everyone benefits from clear and concise information. And with regard to losing control, well, ultimately, the departments are masters of their own destiny anyway. They are making the decisions about how to manage the results of their department. If the CEO is so involved in the intricate processes of an individual department, then it's probably not a great match, right? You need to let go. You need to allow people to do things in very much their own way along a wider set of guidelines. Does that answer your question? Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. Is there any other question from anyone in the audience, please? Okay, making me walk through it. Great. Well, William and I are here. Well, I'm not clicking anymore. William and I are here the duration. So if any of you, another question? No, go, please. I'd love another question.
Hi, I'm from the European Central Bank. We work in the finance team. My question is inspired by what you said about the integration of the chat. If I got it right, you with the internal information. Now in the finance teams, you very often have interactions with the external world. So this information or communication is also relevant for the finance data processing, for example. Do you have any experience or insights on integrating that part, the external flow of information to the organization, maybe the outgoing, so the communication between the organization and the external? Thank you.
Yeah, most certainly. Generally, that kind of communication comes from some kind of web chat or some kind of interface from a mobile phone. And there, yes, we very often integrate that kind of chat together with the tasks that might be part of a ticketing system to actually process that. And so, using a technique called omni-channel and a system that's able to reach out to those chat applications and both pick up and send, we can pick up what's going on within that external chat application and display it within an internal system. Even our system, we can display that as part of that high-level task that somebody's dealing with. So yes, both internal and external communications can both be brought in. You see, when you're keeping track of activities within the organization, you generally have a task that you're trying to track that involves one activity. Yeah? And so you want all of the artifacts that belong with that one activity to be a part of that one activity. So any documents that might exist, any chat or conversations that might exist, any history that might exist for that, and any related bits of information that exist. You want it to be all part of that. And so when you're looking at that activity, you already have all of the information contained within that activity. You don't have to go hunting and searching for this. This is really the thing that takes the most time, right? Somebody's using an external system, maybe an external ticketing system, and they've got to go check the billing system to get some of the information. They need to go check with the deployment system to get more information, maybe the account system to get account information, and they're trying to themselves bounce between all these different applications to get what they need. We think orchestration should give you the ability to collect automatically all of that information. So when you're engaged with a customer, you have all of that data at your disposal. It's very much the same when you're dealing with any organizational task. You know, why waste time going back and looking for those documents that might relate to it? They should really be there already. And you should have access to them if indeed you're authorized to have access to them without having to look for them. And thus save all that time I talked about. Does that answer your question?
Great, thank you for the question. Yeah, and Sam, I believe you have one.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Stefan, the issue we see that's reality. My question would be, how would you explain the difference between that orchestration and data mining? I'm just asking, we're doing some first steps in data mining and see overlapping things, but you clearly not call it data mining, right? So can you explain that?
Yeah, well, for sure. Data mining or analytics is very much collecting that information, putting it into dashboards to allow you to see it. Right? But that's only the beginning of the process, right? And that's an isolated process unto itself, right? You do want to use advanced analytics to collect lots of information and present it, but you really want to do it in the context of a task that needs to be accomplished. Yes? And then you want to be able to deal with the past, which of course creates a kind of feedback loop because you're dealing with the past and it pushes information back into analytics and changes your analytics. We have a variety of approaches for dealing with that. Of course, we've got an awful lot of analytical capabilities within our platform, but also if you're using an external system, a BI system, or maybe something like Grafana or Kibana, some of the open tools, you can actually integrate that information directly. Yeah? Those things are changing. So it's less about seeing things and more about interacting with things and then using those analytics as you're dealing with things. Yeah, because that's when you need them, right? You need to make a decision. And so you need to be seeing information that's relevant to that decision so you can make the decision quickly. Not going off to another application trying to figure out where the particular data is, call up the right dashboard. You know? So it's all part of the same thing.
Great, thank you for all the questions. And once again, please, a round of applause for Chirstopher. Okay, so we'll just take that back. But we will be going to the first networking session of the day. So, of course, where you got your teas and coffees this morning, just outside the front door. This is this is where the teas and coffees will be again. There is some snacks out there as well, and of course, with all the foods, including Clockworx solutions, please do go visit them after you've had your coffee. Go talk to them, as they're going to have some great information to